Narcissistic sister tried to seduce my fiance before my wedding to separate us. She got caught on camera and was disinherited by my parents. This is about my older sister Dav, 29, who simply couldn't stand my existence because apparently I was living a life she didn't deserve. She is divorced and lives with my parents since she is unemployed. She dropped out of college for her rich boyfriend, who eventually divorced her when she showed her true personality. Since I was little, my relationship with my sister was never good. She was the pretty and intelligent one, a bit self-centered. My parents always praised her and were on her side, leaving me feeling incompetent. People praised her looks while I was just not that good looking. You know, and she used all of that to play with my head, saying that nobody liked me. Those childhood criticisms left me very insecure. My parents were never on my side and overlooked my feelings because she always lived up to their expectations. So I distanced myself from them as a child and teenager. She would always bring my friends home when my parents were working. Her friends used to, too, break into my room, and one time they ruined my project. I almost failed. I was going to tell mom about it, but Dee blackmailed me, saying she would share my ugly pictures with my classmates. And since I was 14, I got really scared. She never took responsibility for her actions, and telling my parents was useless because they never paid attention anyways. She did. A lot of things that made me hate her. Mom was never on my side, but sometimes Dad would confront her one time. She used my phone to send weird pictures of me to my group of friends because I complained I stopped trusting her. I don't understand why. She felt so much hatred for me later. I realized she was a narcissist and it had nothing to do with me. It was a major red flag in her relationships, and she literally cheated on every guy she dated. I hate to admit it, but she was also a gold digger. Her ex, who is still my friend, confirms it. Basically, she was pretty mean as a teenager, and as an adult, nothing changed. Her behavior got worse. It was all my parents' fault. Because they never tried to discipline her anyway. Things started to get better after school. I worked hard to get into my dream university, and after a few struggling first years, I got my dream job there. I met the love of my life, Atlas. At an office conference, he was smart, kind, and handsome. We connected instantly and started dating within a few months. We traveled a lot on vacations, outings, and hikes, which helped strengthen our relationship. Atlas had a good relationship with his siblings, so he introduced me to his parents and siblings just a few months into the relationship. But I took my time introducing him to my parents. The main reason for my delay was my sister Dav and her bad intentions. I always had this nagging feeling that she would do everything. She was always the one who got the best things. Growing up and teenager, and now that my life was going better than hers, I'm sure I couldn't stand it, especially the relationship part. However, I couldn't put it off any longer. Atlas was starting to get suspicious of my reluctance to introduce him to my family. So after a year and a half of dating, I told Dad about him. He was happy that I found a man who was worthy of me, and he invited us to dinner. I was excited but equally stressed, because I knew that Dee could do anything to ruin my life. Even though Atlas knew the family dynamics, I still discussed it in detail. He took it in stride and said he would take care of things a few days after my call to Dad. I got a call from Dab. It was surprising, because he had never called me before. He was wondering about Atlas, and when he would visit the house, I was more interested in knowing details about Atlas. I guess Mom would have told him that I was dating this guy and that we were pretty serious. She tries to be friendly with me, and I was aware of the reason behind his interest now. I'm worried about whether I should really take the risk of introducing Atlas to Adab, because I know his intentions are not good also. I'm thinking of an alternative of inviting my parents over to my house to introduce them to Atlas Update 1. Thanks for all the great tips. Some of you commented asking for more on Dab. Here we go. It's true that my parents' stance, specifically my dad's, changed on my sister after her divorce, and she messed things up herself. She was very good academically, but as soon as she entered college, all her focus was on her body and beauty. Dab met a guy named Jeremy, who was super hot, and started a relationship with him. Dropping out of her studies, I was preparing for college entrance exams during my final year of high school, and she kept saying that I will never get into my dream college. But I did. For the first time, I got validation from my parents. They were happy and proud of me, but my sister was envious. When all the attention was on me and not her, my parents threw a celebratory party with family and close friends for my achievement. She wanted to ruin my party and hog all the attention, so she announced her engagement to Jeremy. Right there, you could clearly tell from Jeremy's expression that he had no idea about this, but she succeeded in her mission to make that day about Everyone was excited to meet Jeremy because apparently he was rich. According to my sister, Dab always showed me the expensive gifts he bought her and said that I would never get a rich husband because I'm ugly and no one would want to date someone like me, constantly making me feel bad. I told her that I'm not a gold digger like her and I can pay for my own things while she can have the rich husband she wants overall. She was evil and the most selfish person I've ever met in my life. A week later, Jeremy, they got engaged and I was already in college and I didn't attend the engagement during college. I never had any conversation with her going home during the holidays. It felt good because Dab was living with Jeremy. Even during the holidays, they often took trips to exotic places after a year of dating. They got married in a lavish wedding. Of course, most of the expenses were covered by Jeremy. Dad paid the rest as a courtesy because she didn't earn anything. Their marriage lasted a short time, and after 3 years, they divorced. The reason I knew was that Dam didn't want children. But Jeremy was eager to be a father, although she told me she never forced Dab. She hated how she never revealed her preference before and avoided the conversation for 3 years. She also mentioned her drinking and partying habits, flirting with guys in bars, and that she married him only for money and had no emotional connection. I wondered if I was stupid for not knowing her motives for so long. Jeremy showed me videos where Dab went out drinking with guys and they touched her inappropriately, while she didn't stop them. Thank goodness she got rid of her. My parents sided with Dab and completely blamed Jeremy for forcing her to have kids without admitting fault to Dab. After the divorce, Dab moved in with my parents because she wasn't making any money. She dropped out of college to marry Jeremy. Now, after 5 years, she had no college degree or work experience. She represented being traumatized by the divorce, but in reality, she was happy to be free. Less than a month after the divorce, she went back to her habits of going out to clubs and having casual hookups. Her life seemed to revolve around weekly dates and standing people up. Her Instagram stories were enough to make me know what I was really doing after 2 years of my degree. I got my dream job with a good salary, and my parents were excited I visited the house after receiving the job offer, and Dad was so proud of me he couldn't be happier. We were having dinner when DB came back home apparently drunk. Dad got upset seeing her and said that DB should have gone for an education like me and not ruined her life behind Jeremy, showing how much he was earning, and that D was still depending on them for money. Mom asked Dad not to make those kinds of comments. Hearing this, Dab exploded and slammed the door. That's when Dad realized how spoiled Dab was. He told Mom to make Dab understand that he needs to take his life seriously and stand up straight instead of depending on them. I thanked her for that because later, she came into my room and told me that I could never be like her no matter how much money I made. She made comments about my body, pointing out my belly fat and chubby cheeks. I was sick of her. As a teenager, I used to feel bad about all these comments, but now I just don't care. I laughed at her and told her that I really didn't want to be like her and that she clearly needed to fix her attitude. OMG, she unleashed her fury. Upon hearing this and asked me to leave the house, I told her that this was my parents' house and that she had no authority over me the next day while I was packing. To go back, I noticed that 2 of my dresses were badly ripped, clearly cut with scissors. I went downstairs and showed my parents Dab's childish act. Dad angrily called Dab, but Mum tried to cover it up, saying that Dab was in shock and didn't know what he was doing. Dad warned Mum to stay out of it. He scolded her and warned her to get her life in order, that he could no longer provide for her or tolerate her narcissism. Dam didn't like it one bit and hated me for it, ever since I have been the subject of Dab's deadly fury. I didn't care for his. I hate it. But it became unbearable when she tried to seduce my boyfriend. So after thinking about it a lot and discussing it with Atlas, I finally decided to visit my parents with him. There was no point. 3. I tell you, she just threw herself at him. He was saying hello to Mom and Dad when Dab just threw herself at him to hug him. I don't know what made her think Atlas would notice her looks. She had changed her appearance, dyeing her blonde hair black, getting ready with a new dress, nails and hair done as if Atlas was there on a date with her. She was forcing her way into the conversation, and it was obvious everyone was ignoring her at the dinner table. She was quick to sit next to Atlas. When I asked her to move and that I wanted to sit there, she gave me an annoyed look and fidgeted. She kept asking Atlas about his interests, and if he said he liked something, she would say she liked it too. Even if he didn't, she would then talk about how compatible she and Atlas were and wink at me so I wouldn't take it seriously. But it was obviously to cover herself. Atlas was clearly uncomfortable. He ignored her and moved on the conversation with Dad and Mom. His move was so obvious and pathetic. After dinner, I went to take a shower and Atlas was alone when Dave walked in, asking Atlas to call her number since he couldn't find her phone. He did everything to get her number. How sick. She also told me that when I was busy with other things. Dav tried to gain her sympathy by narrating stories of divorce and mental anguish that took her years to recover. The funny part was Mom also joined in complaining about Jeremy after a while. Atlas asked me if I wanted to take a walk and show him the neighborhood. Before I could say anything, my sister stood up and said sure. Atlas gave her a surprised look and told him he wanted to spend some time alone with me. Her face flushed in embarrassment and she went to her room. It's only been a few days since that visit and I am anticipating Dab using tactics to seduce Atlas. No doubt, I'm scared of that, but I also trust my man and want to see how he handles his advances. Update 2. Hey everyone, I am engaged. Atlas proposed to me last month on a trip. Yes, he got down on one knee with a ring, and I couldn't stop getting excited about it. After my visit to my parents, Dav tried to put his tactics to use to manipulate Atlas. He sent her texts asking how she was. Atlas loves cats, so Dee would bombard her inbox with cute cat videos, even though she never had any affection for cats before. Now he has one for herself, and records videos to send to Atlas. For the first few weeks, Atlas would show me Dee's desperate greetings and affectionate messages. Asking about her work, she pretended to be affectionate, but after a while, she stopped telling me about his messages. I thought she had dumped him and moved on. We too kind of outgrew their thing. I mean, obviously we had better things to do in life. We had hectic work schedules one time. I was checking my social media and saw Dab had added Atlas to his account. I was liking and commenting on every single one of his posts with those cute, silly heart icons. I would even comment on his old pictures and videos from the last 7 to 10 years. I didn't have a good feeling about it, and suddenly I checked his phone. I saw that Dav was still texting him every now and then, but his messages were there, unread, and were kind of strange. He was really trying hard to get Atlas's attention. In the call logs, there were missed calls, including one that came in around 3 a.m. Seeing this, I got anxious. So I confronted him about why he didn't tell me that Dav was texting. Atlas got agitated and said that I was ignoring them. He thought it best not to discuss it. I pressed him about the calls, and he remained calm. Then he sat me down and explained that one day, Dav called him when she was really upset. She freaked out and thought something was wrong. Then, she started talking about traumatic things involving Jeremy and needed to talk to someone. Atlas told her that she should talk to her parents and that it wasn't appropriate to call so late. She told Dav that she should have told me first. That really got to me, and I told her that keeping this information to herself wasn't sitting well with me and that I might stop trusting her. He assured me that I would never fall for his tricks and that I had nothing to worry about. I have read hundreds of similar posts where the husband falls into this trap, despite trying to avoid it, and I don't want to make a fool of myself by blindly trusting him. I told him that the next time Dablo calls, he has to hand over the phone to me. I wanted to catch her red-handed in her malicious plan, and one day his call came. He woke me up in the middle of the night. I answered it. He was silent when he heard my voice, and then said it was a mistake, and hung up. I called her the next day many times to warn her, but she never answered. I sent her messages from Atlas's phone and told her it was me, and that she shouldn't call or message Atlas, and necessarily at odd hours. If there was something urgent, she should call me and not him. She stopped texting him. After that, let's finally relax from our lives. After Atlas proposed to me, I sent the picture of the ring to my dad. Mom must have shown that to Dab since she started her stalking game again. She started texting him and sending him videos. Fools, I was sick of her. As soon as Atlas told me, I called her and yelled at her to stop her tactics and get a life. She was silent for most of it as I unleashed all my pent-up anger, but I didn't realize she wasn't going to give up. As soon as I hung up, got a super angry call from my mom yelling at me for insulting my sister. Dable told Mom that I was accusing her of stealing my fiancé. Mom said, "Your cruelty has given my daughter panic attacks. Can't you be even a little considerate towards your sister who's been battling depression all these years and still hasn't recovered from her traumatic divorce?" It was funny because DB was never depressed about her divorce. Anyway, I hung up the call and told Dad if they kept ignoring Dab, I'd cut them out of my life. I can't keep being a puppet in their game. I was sick of ignoring her. Update 3. I never thought she'd go this low. She always made my life hell. but I never thought she'd try to seduce my fiancé before my wedding. I want saying all. That bullying, the teasing about my body, and the jokes were one thing, but it was hard to accept that she actually tried to seduce my fiancé and ruin my wedding. So we were planning our wedding little by little. I wasn't talking to Mom after the confrontation, but she called me and apologized for yelling at me. She said that she got scared seeing Dab having panic attacks and therefore lost control. Before one of my cousins told me how Dab had been sobbing over my happy life, she's been telling everyone how I was accusing her of stealing my fiancé from me, and how I didn't deserve anything, not even a job, and especially Atlas second. Since she's the most beautiful, she should have the best of everything. No, I told this to Mom, and she stayed silent. She said, well, forget it all and focus on your wedding and your happy life ahead. Everything happened as planned. Dab was calm this whole time. At least, she didn't appear in our life. On our wedding day, we were at the venue, busy preparing for the big moment. I got a call from Atlas's best friend, asking me to come to Atlas's room with my parents. I joked with him saying that Atlas can't see the bride before the wedding. He said it was serious and that we needed to address it before the wedding. My heart pounded and I ran to his room with my parents. Atlas was lying shirtless, half unconscious, as his groomsmen narrated Dab's cunning tactics. Atlas was getting ready in his room when Dab arrived with a drink. He refused to take it, but Dab forced him to take a sip. Atlas took a sip and realized the drink was spiked. He excused himself and went to the bathroom. He called his friend. He explained everything and asked him to come over. When his friend ran into the room, Atlas had partially lost consciousness and was out of the bathroom. His friend shared a room with Atlas, so he got access to the room's camera. He was quick to turn on his camera as he crept into the room. He heard Atlas yelling at Dab to leave him alone while Dab was sitting on top of him, undressing and rubbing herself against him. This disgusting act was captured on camera. When she saw Atlas's friend, she pretended they were doing something and covered herself and walked out. She didn't realize she was already recorded. She smiled at Atlas's friend and asked him not to tell no one about this. When we got there, Atlas was still lying partially unconscious. The drink was so strong that it left Atlas with severe dizziness and a headache. With just a few sips, the drink was still there with some solid particles settled. At the bottom, it was a super embarrassing moment for my parents, and they couldn't believe that Dab would do something so horrible. Mom called her asking her to come to Atlas's room. She arrived with lipstick smeared on her face. She said, I know you're all mad at me, but it was mutual. Atlas loves me and has been making advances towards me ever since she met me. Today, she convinced me to have a one-off before the wedding. Mom slapped her hard, telling her that we knew what a stupid thing she was trying to do, and that her horrible act had been caught on camera. She was shocked to learn that my parents kicked her out of the venue before she could make any more of a fuss. Security was instructed not to let her enter the premises. She deliberately wanted everyone to know that she was doing things with Atlas so that I would call off the wedding. Dad called the doctor, who confirmed that Atlas was served a tainted drink. It affected her head. Atlas's parents and siblings were so agitated that they wanted to look for her. My parents had to apologize to them to calm them down. The wedding was delayed until Atlas recovered. After several rounds of vomiting, this news soon reached the guests who enjoyed the gossip. Over the next few days, when Atlas recovered, Dad walked me down the aisle. I was happy to see him as my husband, but I was also equally stressed about everything that had happened. Atlas added an extra point to his vows, promising to protect our relationship from all the people who didn't like seeing us together. After we returned from our honeymoon, my parents visited us and apologized to Atlas for all the trouble Dab caused. Dad assured us that Dab would be out of our lives. In fact, he had kicked her out of the house and told her to live on her own. I still can't get over the incident. My wedding was almost canceled if his friend hadn't recorded that I would never have believed that Atlas wasn't involved in this.